Sonic Talk.
Hello everybody, welcome to Sonic Talk episode 581, recording today on Wednesday the 26th of June, actually just before Glastonbury starts, which I'm guessing is now a global event. I think they televise it all over the world, and there's certainly people from all over the world there. I don't know what sort of numbers they're expecting. I've heard various figures between 100 and 200,000. Too many people in one place with very limited toilet facilities for my liking, but if you're going, I hope you have fun. Looks like there's going to be weather, so that's good. This is the Sonicstate podcast. This is all to do with music technology, music production, electronic music, software, controllerism, many, many other things. We've been having a little bit of a pre-roll. We record every Wednesday, and we sort of go live a little bit early, which you could still see on YouTube. I think I'll keep the thing up. We've had some great science show titles already. Science Fiction Farticle was a good one, and Suffering from Buffering was another one because we had a bit of an audio delay. But we'll see what the show brings up. I want to say thank you very much to iZotope, who are providing the prize this week. You'll be able to win a copy of Neutron 3, which is their excellent mix processing plugin. So stay tuned for details on that. So let's say hello to Yoad Nevo, who is finally, we managed to synchronise, so he's not out of the office. He's at the office now, or at least his studio office. New facility in London, which is has been a long time in the making. Yoad, of course, mix engineer, producer, songwriter, as well as developer for Waves, sort of by career path at the moment, if that sounds right. How are you, Yoad? You well?
Yeah, I'm great. Yeah,
good.
Good to be here as always.
And how's the studio now? Has all the dust covers come off? Is everything functioning as you hope? Yeah.
Yeah, just loving it here. Really nice. And when you start designing a new place from the ground up, and all the wiring and all the kind of different possibilities of connecting stuff together and linking stuff together, the machine room and this, and it really pays off. I've been in the last studio. I've been there for 10 years, and I did a good design initially, but there's stuff that kind of accumulated, like more cables and more things and more USBs and more, and this time I think that I got it right for at least a good few years.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I think your delays come back, but I guess we might have to live with it, because if it's going to keep coming back and you've rebooted the machine, I'm not sure what else we can do. So we'll just have to live with it for the time being. If you're further back in the shot, so it's just as long as you're moving and gesticulating.
I'll just cover my mouth while I speak,
and then no one will know the difference. Yeah, brilliant. Well, like I say, we've first of all, we got Glastonbury this weekend, which is a massive TV event. Have you ever been, Yoad? I mean, because I imagine some of the bands you've mixed may have been sort of heading off to promote the latest recordings there. Did you ever get the kind
Yeah, no, I've not been. I've been to the Isle of Wight once, and I actually played there. But that was my kind of. No, I've not been to Glastonbury.
Wow, it's amazing, isn't it? Really, it's.
I know. Probably one of the only kind of people in the UK, but there you go.
Well, the amount of people that go. I mean, I started out going, I think, about in early 1980s. I think I was 16 when I first went. I'm still. I mean, I can't imagine there are many parents now that would let such young kids go alone to a festival like that. But I mean, it was much smaller, so. But it was still very murky, shall we say? Lots of underworld and underground stuff going on there. But it was great fun. I mean, I remember the first year. I'm trying to think who I saw. Randy California. I think Weather Report maybe. Can't remember. So I actually saw Joe Zawinul play live at a festival. It was very good. It was back around the time of the album called Domino Theory, which was, I think, one of the last Weather Report albums. But
yeah, I think I saw this show in Tel Aviv when they performed there. Yeah, it was amazing.
Such fantastic. I think Wayne Shorter was playing, not Pastorius. I forget who the bass player was, but I was into all of that stuff back then, so it was a real treat.
Yeah, me too.
And I was saying before the show that I probably just took a load of dried packet soup and pot noodles to feed myself at the time, but now you can dine very finely at great expense, it must be added. So big can of water and a kettle, you'd be fine. Although you still have to burn. So yeah, what are we talking about this week? Well, there's been it's weird. This is a really sort of delayed action thing, and I'll start with a video because it might explain. It'll be a clue. So
don't have any information how it started. We do have cause investigators, both from Los Angeles Fire Department and LA County Fire Department. Once we get a better handle on the fire, we'll be.
This is the footage and sort of live report of the fire that was at Universal Studios, the UMG group, in the back lot.
If it was King Kong Building was involved.
As we are now discovering. And this is something that Universal have sort of been trying to keep a bit quiet. Not only was a lot of film stock lost, but there was a lot of master audio recordings. Sheryl Crow has just come out and has been talking about how, hey, wait, where are my tapes? And because the thing what's turned out now is, I think I've got a video here, not video, a web page. She's really realised that it destroyed all the master tapes, and not only the masters but the backups. And the thing about master tapes is these could be the session tapes, so there might be a whole load of songs that didn't make it on the record, that were incomplete recordings that you might want to go back to later on because it was a particularly creative period, and people quite often go back and rework on their things. And this is heavy shit. I mean, if you don't mind me saying that.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine how you could have the safeties and the masters in the same building, for starters. That just seems insane to me.
Yeah, I mean, I talk to a lot of people who have, who work on their iPads or phones or laptops, and I always ask, is it backed up? What happens? No, it'll be fine. Maybe I have some of it on this hard drive or this, and backing up is it shouldn't even be like an issue.
Yeah.
You should have as many as you possibly can, and I can tell you about how I work and how I back up stuff. I mean, it's quite because I work in Dropbox, so all my projects are in Dropbox, so it's already showing up on 2 other computers. Which are linked to the same account. One of them backs up everything to the Apple thing. What's it called?
Yes.
Time machine. While at the same time, it's uploading to Backblaze.
Yes, I use Backblaze as well. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So everything that I do is already in like 6 different places, 3 of them of which are not, or 2 of them are not local even.
Yeah.
3 because the laptop is at home, so it's like, and once I recommend to anyone to just create a system that does things automatically, because I used to burn stuff to CDs and later to DVDs and Blu-rays and things like that, and hard drives, and then where overwrite or not, or replace or not, and all that. It's it's much better to have an automatic system that just does it for you, however small it may be, as long as it involves like 2 or preferably 3 other places that the data can be stored on.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, it's the thing that's really interesting about this is because I remember back at the time, Sheryl Crow, was it Dave Bottrell was the engineer, and Daniel Lanois was involved, and they're really into analog, which is great, and it's lovely to have all that sound. But the problem with analog is you can't do that. You actually have to make either a digital clone, which of the
you can make,
or you have to have 2 24 tracks and clone one to the other. I mean, which is a massive resource hog. I mean, that's a real disadvantage, I would say.
Well, I mean, if you're working on a major album, so if you're talking about the expense or the cost of the tape, it's not that significant, and you just do it. You just do it. And by the way, if you want to be copying an analog tape to another machine, there's an interesting way of doing it backwards, because when you do it backwards, so you put the playback one backwards and then you record it to the other machine, and then all the transients, instead of kind of bending the or shocking the magnetic field that and create interference which can be distorted are built up basically.
Oh,
so if you
that's interesting.
Yeah.
So would they sound? So would that mean that they would
get-
actually
you
sound
get-
different?
it would sound just a little bit more crisp on the transients. It's and then obviously you reverse the recorded tape and you play it normally, and then so if you do it throughout the whole length, it's exactly the same, and that's a nice way of doing it.
That is a
Not that
really. I'd never
not-
heard that.
Yeah, but not that anyone should be experiencing that kind of issues these days.
So there's another question. I mean, because I haven't. I mean, we used to get copies of multi-track sent because we did lots of remixing, and it would always come on 2 inches or dash or whatever, and we'd have to get it transferred. There was quite a big, a studio would have a copy facility because you don't want to tie up your main studio rooms just because you're copying master tapes. When you're copying from one to another, and there's Dolby involved or some kind of noise reduction, would you copy them without noise reduction? How would that work?
That's a good question. I think haven't thought about that one actually.
Because otherwise,
it would make sense. It would make it would make sense to copy, because basically the Dolby is there in order to prevent or to lower the hiss that comes from tape. Now, if you record it, if you put the Dolby decoder on, then you reduce the hiss first time, but then when you introduce the hiss again on the copy. So it would make sense to basically to let the noise accumulate, and then you may have to tweak the decoder. You may have to tweak the threshold because the noise level has increased. So you may have to.
And not only that. So I mean, I remember back in the day. Again, when you'd have studio rates, you'd have the Atari 24-track higher rate, and then you would pay extra for a rack of Dolby S or whatever it was. So if you need
Dolby SR.
So if you were then going from one tape to another, you need 2 racks of Dolby SR or Dolby at the same time. I mean, that just just the amount of hardware that you need just to make copies it's insane.
Well, no, not really, because if you encode it once to the original tape and then you record it just straight to the other tape, and then you just need the Dolby again on playback as normal.
Right. Oh, okay. But yeah, I mean, I feel you. I mean, I always used to back up stuff. I remember backing up my S1000 memory contents.
Onto that.
ASEBU board, and that would. I'd always have to do it twice because sometimes it would work and sometimes it wouldn't.
I know.
You say do 2 times. Around.
And have you ever listened to the actual sound from this DAT?
It's like modem, isn't it? Isn't it modem talk?
No, it's not. It's not. That's the funny thing. It actually transmits, and that's why you get such a big error rate, because it actually transmits PCM. If you listen to it, you'll hear like a few blobs, like that, which is the header and the file name and all that, and then it will actually play the file, and at the end it will do another kind of check some whatever end of file. And that's how it would transmit it through PCM.
So it'd like resample it effectively, but the data would be How interesting.
So it will, So it just gives it the kind of metadata at the end and at the beginning of the file, and then plays it as audio.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, yes, backup is very important. You're right. The whole cloud thing. I mean, we moved to cloud. Here for for a lot of reasons, but I mean the thing that's really scary about this is there are lots. There's Billie Holiday, Louis Armstrong, Aretha Franklin, Ray Charles, Elton John, Janet Jackson, Nirvana, Eminem, all of these people's masters, and in some cases the safety copies of those masters have been lost. I'm not sure. I mean, not in every case that's going to be a problem. The problem is when there's unreleased material that hasn't been mixed and maybe hasn't been mastered. That's where you get the issue. And presumably that would only be the tape. I mean, as we know, cellulose film stock, which would have been, that was really scary. They must have lost a lot of that stuff. And digitizing that to high quality is expensive and probably something they would do.
Also, the technology keeps changing. So at the time, you wouldn't want to be using kind of digital copies that were made in the 80s or something like that. You would
like
want
VHS,
to have access to
a VHS, but
you know what I mean. So, and I heard this story. I'm not sure whether it's entirely true, but about the Canadian government who had this audio museum or kind of, and they did a massive digitizing project, but they did it MP3. So, you know what I mean? So basically, you want to be able to keep the originals as long as you can, because the technology keeps changing, and then you want to use the latest conversion and bitrate and whatever.
Wow, yeah. So anyway, the fire happened in 2008. Various people now. The big scandal seems to have been that allegedly, I should probably put around this, is that Universal Audio played down the amount of damage, but in the background claimed like 150 million dollars worth of insurance claims against it, but haven't actually told anything to the artist. So the artist is now discovering. They go, "Where's my master tapes?" It's like, well, so now there's. I'm trying to think who there are. There's a bunch of people who've got a class action, and that they are now sort of rightly, I think, having a go, because UMG Group are the world's biggest record company, and it's quite a scandal, really, that their entire archive, creative art. I mean, I'm sure it's not everything, but that there are probably other copies that would then need to be sourced. But geez, what an absolute nightmare.
That just shows you the difference between kind of yesteryear's conglomerates and today's, because now if a server farm on Amazon kind of gets destroyed on a fire or something, then nothing really will happen to anyone, because all the data is kind of spread all over the place. And
I think there are some instances where it might, but I mean, if it's been a little while since the last backup, you might lose some data. I mean, but we operate all our stuff in the cloud. We don't operate our video editing in the cloud yet, although I just discovered this rather fantastic video editing service which is online. You upload a video, it's for titling and stuff, and so we might start using that, but that's not really, that just means that we're for overlays and whatnot, but it's all going that way, and that convenience does mean that when you're working cloud-based, then you do have inherent backups, and that's the thing. I mean, analog is great, but lots of people, for instance, they might kind of go, I've got this lovely 8-track analog, and they're not going to have a copy. They're just going to be using, like, I know people like Portishead and stuff, I know Ade Utley has a 1-inch 8-track, which he likes to bounce drums onto and then bring them back in, or maybe not, maybe you master onto that, and you're just kind of like, it's all, that's the downside. So there is a positive to the digital world, and because now the sound is so good that, it's not quite the same thing as everybody sounding like a horrible, brash Pro Tools mix from the 1980s, so.
Yeah, but there was something about that too that I kind of miss as well. There's always something to reminiscence about. The good old 16-beat sound,
Yeah, well, thank goodness. Otherwise, there'd be nothing for us to talk about on this show. But I mean, I think this story's going to run and run, and they're going to be chased around a little bit, and probably have to come up with something. But yikes! It just looked very scary.
Yeah. Well, I have a few ideas for backups if they need any advice on that.
Well, I think the problem is like, say, for instance, with us, video is a lot more difficult because we're generating much larger amounts of files. So it gets harder, like if we do a filming session here with 6 cameras and the multi-stream, we could generate 300 gigabytes in an hour.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot. And that's not really something that we can very easily just cloud. It would take longer than overnight to get that up to somewhere, because we don't have that fat a pipe, and even with a fat pipe, that's still probably going some, isn't it?
Time. Yeah,
it's going to be a bottleneck. So
at the same time, no harm in having like one old computer running in the background, just uploading all this stuff from the network,
I suppose,
automatically. You can have like scripts and schedules and things like that would say, okay, back me this folder every night or something like that, back it up, and just let it work. I have one machine like that, an 8-core Mac from Mac Pro from 2008. It used to be a workhorse, but now it just has loads of hard disks connected and a lot of network connections, and it just uploads stuff all the time.
Just for your information, Mauve in the chat room says they have an old 90s PT Pro Tools TDM rig for sale. If you're interested, Yoad, if you want to get back to the old days, you probably still got it.
I actually have one machine which works like a Mix Plus system on a Mac G4 that runs, I think, Pro Tools 6 or maybe 5.4, whatever the last one used to be on OS 9. And it should, in theory, still work. I have a few projects that, that if I ever need them, I can, in theory, load them up and continue from where I was.
Yeah. Hopefully. Okay. How often do you need
Good luck
to do
with that?
I mean, this is the thing, because we've got racks and racks and racks of hard drives. I mean, we get through 2 pairs of 3 gig. We do about, I don't know, however many terabytes, probably about 15 terabytes a year of storage space, maybe a bit more than that. And they just sit there in these racks. And I don't think we've ever gone back more than, I think it's a good ago.
Yeah, but I think it's a good advice to let them spin every once in a while. Just connect the power plug, let it run for 10 minutes, because otherwise the rubber and all the kind of moving parts kind of get dried up and things like that. It's good to keep it going, to let it kind of spin for a while every now and then. I never do it, but I
must admit, great advice, but it's not something I'm going to be spending my afternoon doing.
Exactly.
100 drives, that's going to take you.
No, but I mean, I tried
for that.
I started a massive project a couple of years ago of just not just digitizing, but basically uploading my entire kind of data, up to the cloud, and it takes a little bit of time, and you need to label it properly and everything. But then it's all there, and I still keep the originals, but it's there, and I'm hoping that Dropbox will not go bankrupt or something like that overnight.
You get maybe a couple of months to download your stuff beforehand.
Yeah.
I seem to remember something like that happening. We get those things. It's like MySpace and these various kind of music libraries or places where you can leave your stuff, and they say, come and get your things because we're closing down. I'm sure that's happened in the past. It's been a topic, but use the cloud. It is your friend, and if you've got a decent enough pipe, then you can get the stuff up there, and it's not that expensive to store. It really is.
No, I would say use 2 clouds as well.
Right.
Like 2 different services, just because if one of them goes out of business or something like that, you still have it backed up. Maybe not as easily accessible, but still something that you can retrieve.
Wise words. Yes. Okay. They probably all use Amazon as a backbone of it behind the scenes anyway. So that may or may not be a viable.
Yeah, but if Amazon servers go down, I mean, civilization as we know it will.
Yeah, I remember it happened once. I was on holiday and Amazon went down, and it was just basically everything stopped working.
You can't do anything
for like 2 or 3 days. Yeah, which was really weird. Anyway, we've probably dwelt on that long enough. Anyway, it's an interesting story and one that will run and run and run. I think maybe now let's just get straight in there and do a word from our friends at iZotope. We can get that out of the way.
Presenting Neutron 3, the modern way to mix. Bring your workflow into the 21st century with 8 modern mixing tools, all at your fingertips in one mothership plugin. Starting a mix can take a while, but with the all-new Mix Assistant, Neutron can listen to your audio and quickly suggest a custom starting point for an individual track, or set levels for your entire mix. Shape sounds like never before with the new Sculptor module. Match audio to a target sonic profile and instantly sculpt it to sound more like itself or like something else completely. Reach out and touch your audio with Neutron's immersive controls and visualizations. Neutron 3 comes equipped with Visual Mixer, a tool to help you effortlessly manipulate the landscape of your mix. Neutron 3, the modern way to mix.
And of course, you could download a 10-day demo of Neutron 3 by going to iZotope.com and just signing up, and you can get hold of that stuff. We had a competition last week, and we have a winner for this week, and the winner is will win a copy of Neutron 3, and that's the advanced version. So just to point you out, the competition is for the advanced version, and this is Alan Smith, who's at Smithy1138. And they tweeted, "I love this because I'm terrible at mixing," which is probably a perfectly valid reason, because it can help you very much, particularly the frequency masking is very, very useful. But we're also going to have a competition for this week. So for next week's winner, you need to enter the hashtag Mix Assistant and the hashtag Neutron 3. I think we did that for Neutron 2, but we're using the hashtag Neutron 3 this time. So the hashtag Mix Assistant and the hashtag Neutron 3 to at Sonicstate and at iZotope Inc. will enter you into the competition for next week's prize. So thanks again to iZotope for providing us with their prize. Okay, so what's next? I got a title. I think I'm going to call this one the Backupocalypse. The Backupocalypse. The backup. It's very hard to say, much easier to write.
It's hard to say.
It is hard to say. I'm not even going to try and say it again. That's way too difficult. So what else is next? Yeah, that title, that oh, sorry, we lost your masters. Oh, and the safety copies too, which it could have been at the show title as well. Ableton Live Synth course. Now, where is that? I think I've got that somewhere. Oh, yeah, here we go.
That was really cool.
This is called Learning. It's basically learningsynths.ableton.com, and it's a really brilliant bit of HTML5 and JavaScript, and you can just kind of... Oh, I don't think I've actually got the audio in. That's probably not such good. I wonder if I can do that now. That might... I can quickly get that in there. So essentially, they've just created this HTML5 web that will run on tablets. It will run on phones. It will run on your desktop. I think this might work now.
Yeah, we can hear something.
I can't really hear that. Never mind. Maybe I've just turned it... Ah, there we go. That'll work. Just full of these fantastic graphics, which I'm guessing they're using some kind of audio engine behind. And you can, it takes you through changing the oscillator speed. And all these brilliant graphics to illustrate, right from amplitude, envelopes, oscillators, modifiers, filters. And it's just a really good resource, and it ends with the synthesis playground, which, let's see, this gives you a number of patterns. And a sort of simple representation of a subtractive synth, all done in the browser. And it seems like a real labour of love. It's really good, isn't it? I mean, it's a beautiful piece of design work, and literally free. That it's just... So if anyone ever wants to know what the synthesis is about, that is the sort of thing that you could use.
Absolutely.
Just what a great resource.
It's really amazing, and it kind of, it kind of gives you a hint of things to come, basically, in terms of education and stuff like that, because this applies to almost anything. Imagine mechanics and things like that. I'm sure there's stuff like that already, but the fact that it generates sounds and all that, there's something a bit sad about thinking about all the kids that will, not have the experience of tweaking knobs in order to get sound. So but it kind of, I don't know, it really imprints the notion that the screen is the way things are at the moment, and the way for things to come, for sure.
Yeah, I think this works. This does work with... I'm just looking for it. So this will do MIDI input. So this has got a MIDI input. Oh, look, I'm playing it via... I've got a keyboard set up here, so it's got web MIDI. And it's quite a...
nice.
I wonder if there's any... I can't map any controllers, and sadly, but yeah, it's not going to be long. We've talked about the web MIDI stuff before. It's quite handy, but it's just a really... You're right, though. It's just a brilliant graphical interface, and well worth checking out if you just need to freshen up, or you maybe don't understand a concept. I mean, there's not much more to say about it. They haven't made a big deal about it. They just sent a few quiet press releases out to a few partners and said, "Oh, do you want to let people know about this?" And so this is part of it. But it is a real... I mean, just the way that all the graphics...
That's amazing.
work. It's really,
I'm going to definitely show it to my 4-year-old daughter and see whether she connects to it, because I think it can be, it's almost like a game.
Yeah.
At least to me, that what it looks like. Maybe she will not dig it at all, but who knows?
Yeah, well, exactly, and you can always. It's a sort of low risk, low expense checking out whether or not she might be interested in that sort of world.
Yeah.
And then trying to find a synthesizer that looks anything like that. Because even Ableton don't make one, so we'll have to see about that. But that was pretty cool. Okay, what else have we got? Oh yeah, here we go. Now this was an interesting one. I mean, talk about long tail product life. This is fascinating, I think. So this is from Hypersynth, and it's basically what they've done is they've made some new ROM cartridges for.
Hey everyone, this is Ra from Mad Fame, and in front of me I have
DX7.
the H-Card 750 designed by Hypersynth for the Roland D50. The H-Card series offers a modern, portable storage solution for vintage synth owners. The current version of the 750 can store up to 64 banks with 64 presets per bank, giving you a total of 4,096 presets that can be stored on the H-Card. The H-Card has a sleek solid build and features a 2-digit 7-segment display with 2 pads for selecting files. Operation is easy. Insert the H-Card, turn on the D50, and the
and then it just turns up like a bank of presets. The same on the DX7 as well. I mean, it's kind of... There's something I like about it, but I just think, why on earth would you do this? Because, just use a soft version and then download all those patches on the computer. I suppose someone might be gigging with that and might go to a session and feel they have to take a keyboard with their massive amounts of cartridges.
For the DX7, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Can you picture that? That would be old school, wouldn't it? Absolutely old school.
That would be really old school. But I remember that there used to be a guy in Tel Aviv that used to make these cartridges, like back in when it was still relevant. Which was a few decades ago, and he used to make like, I don't know, 4 banks of 64 or whatever. It was a huge amount for the time. But even back then, I used to work with the DX Droid for the Atari to create all the sounds and store and manage all the presets and all that. So yeah, I don't know. It's a nice kind of gesture or something, or salute to this old technology, but. You have CSEX and stuff like that, which is much more convenient.
I wonder how. Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering how. It's just taking me back to that kind of whole concept. There is a lot of talk in the chat room about a big update to the Electron stuff, but I can't find any information about it. But everybody's getting quite excited. Apparently, Digitone now has. Digitech now has Master Tune and Digitone, so people are getting quite excited by that concept, but I cannot see. I'm looking on the Electron website. I can't see anything specific about it. So we'll just have to. If you need to know, you probably will find out. But lots of people are quite excited about that. Yeah, this is an interesting item. About €150, I think. I think they make them in. Let me see. I think it might be in. Where are they made? They sell them in Perfect Circuit, Thomann, coming soon, order now, Europe. Where are they based? I think they're US. Hypersynth, Canada. Canada. EU, US, Canada. I'm not sure, to be honest. But the H-Card, if you need it, it could be the way forward, I suppose. But the other thing you could probably do is figure out a way, because the Raspberry Pi 4 has also been announced, which... I've ordered yesterday because I'm a big fan of it. Right, and I imagine there's probably a way you could figure out, to put a ribbon connector and store all your patches on a little Raspberry Pi and dump them in there as well, which would be another way of doing it. But hey, yes, for those who are interested, Raspberry Pi 4 has gigabit Ethernet finally, proper gigabit Ethernet with a separate controller and USB 3, which means you can use it for network backups. It could actually, Yoad, be that computer you're talking about that's sitting in the background, just pulling all the stuff off your network and uploading it to your cloud services.
Yeah, I think that if you run all your data through a DX7 before it's going up to the cloud, then it will improve the sound.
Yeah, that's an idea. Hexify it. That's an idea, yeah. So convert it to hex and then upload it. Wow, imagine how long that would take. A very long time. So there's not much more to say about that, really, is it? But, I mean, I'm thinking, so DX7, what, 1984? So that's...
83, if I remember correctly.
93, 2003, 2013, that's 36 years, and the product is still being supported and still working, and D50 as well. So good on them, I guess.
It's a
I
workhorse.
wonder how many they will sell, and why would you buy one, I suppose? That would be the question. Can you think of a reason why you would?
Well, I wouldn't discourage people from buying it, because there's something kind of romantic about those folks who actually sat down and said, let's start this project of storing D50 sounds and DX7 sounds. I think there's something about it. So I would say they deserve some.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm not saying why, as in you must be crazy. I was just thinking, what purpose would, there must be enough of a demand for these for them to get distributors and for people to buy them. So I've just found, in fact, Jason via the chat room has just sent the list of changes, improvements, master tune, bug fixes. So yeah, there's a few things. I guess it's funny, isn't it, how operating system updates and sequencer updates. When we were perhaps not working fully professionally, but we're in the creative mode, we're quite exciting, because you sort of think, oh yeah, maybe I'll be able to explore that new functionality, whereas now it's the sort of thing that you and I probably go, no way, I'm not touching that. not until I've got clear water between this and the next project, and know that compatibility is there and all
there was I think I may have told this before on this show, but there was a project I did on Windows 3.1. And then when Windows 95, I had the beta version stuff, and I just couldn't resist it. I just installed it, and then the project played. The sound was different. It was kind of it has no high frequencies at all. It was different, so I had to have two systems. And whenever I worked on that project that was recorded on Windows 3.1, I had to go back to that, and until I finished the project, it was crazy. But yeah, in the old days I couldn't resist. I remember once I got a new motherboard for my PC, like a Pentium or something like that, and or maybe even a 468 or something, 486, and I had a session and I had 20 minutes, and I said, I'm just going to go for it. And 20 minutes before the session, I took the computer apart, changed the motherboard, put it all back together. And then when the artist came and said hello and started working, and it was all fine. It could have ended totally differently, but yeah. God,
fine. that really is living dangerously. Yeah, how we learn. What else was I looking for? Oh yes, actually, here we go. Don't know if anybody. Some people made it to our. Let me just find the page. Yeah, some people made it to our Sonicstate Live, which we did in, I think it was November, wasn't it? I forget now. In Bristol at DBS Music, and there was a guy, Ben Shannon, came over to record some stuff for Canadian CBC in Canada, and that's now out. So this is the NPR. So there's a 10-minute piece about, essentially it's about the kind of the timelessness of certain synthesizer designs. And he's focusing on the Moog Mini Moog, because obviously he's talking to Adrian Utley. Let's see if I can play.
I'm Nora Young. This is Spark from your friends at CBC Radio. And
interesting musical instruments that's ever been created. No, really.
Ben loves synths so much, as you can tell, that a few months ago he traveled to Bristol, UK, specifically to hear synthesizer luminaries talk. But he also had a nagging question. You see, most acoustic musical instruments, like the guitar or the violin, haven't really changed in over 200 years. But electronic instruments continue to be fiddled with and upgraded. And that got Ben wondering, when will electronic musical instruments stop evolving?
Imagine if each time you sat down to play piano.
It's a very slick production, and as with a lot of radio production, I mean, I don't know if it's taken that long to do, but it's a really good job. And I like being described as a synth luminaire. And he posted this on his Facebook page, and I said, "Oh, you made me sound like an adult. Thank you very much." So, but it's good. It's a fun listen. But there's some interesting questions raised there. About the fact that these instruments. Acoustic instruments, don't evolve in any way like they're these kind of classic. I think you used the phrase canon, which I use, and I wondered. I put that question to you. Do you think that there will be a time when they stop evolving?
first of all, can you say that the guitar hasn't evolved at all in 200 years? I wouldn't necessarily say that. No, it depends on which perspective you're looking at things, because the synthesizer running on an iPad is an evolution of a harpsichord. It's a keyboard instrument that later evolved into pianoforte, and then to organs, and then to synthesizers, and now it's running on the iPad. So it is evolving. I think that the original stays the same alongside the different branch of evolution, like happens in the real world of real evolution, genetic evolution. So that's one thing. The other thing is, in that cars evolve, I think that it's only natural that synth and keyboards and things like that, and all the things we love will evolve as well. I think that if you put a driver from 100 years ago, or let's say even 80 years ago, in today's car, they wouldn't necessarily know what to do or where to even start, literally.
That's never been a problem for me. My car's 15 years old. Yeah, I see what you mean,
so things do evolve. It's just that the classical, the fact is that we call it classical music and classical instruments and all that. So they have their place, and then at the same time they throw stems to different that grow different branches and lead to different things.
No, that's a good point. I mean, it's a bit like saying, well, a hammer hasn't changed functionality since it was invented, which is a rock. But then you've got a rock with a handle, and then you've got a rock with a rubber grip on the handle to stop the shot going through. Then you've got a different kind of metal. But essentially,
and you have a power hammer.
The basic function is hitting things.
Yeah, exactly. And the basic function is making music using, in this instance, a keyboard interface. So whatever this keyboard, whatever sound it generates, basically changes, but the same interface. But now we're experiencing a lot more interesting and diverse interfaces.
Yeah, well. I think so. I mean, I think the thrust of I can't remember the exact questions he asked me because it was such a long time ago, and I did listen to it a little while back. That was something along the lines of, where is the innovation coming? And I was sort of suggesting that it's probably going to be in the digital realm, because there's only so much analog engineering can achieve because of the tolerances of stuff and the thinness of wires.
But you raise an interesting point, that the difference actually is the price and the accessibility.
Yes, yeah.
And that's a really good point. I think.
It's I think that's what my point was. It's just everything's getting cheaper, so you can do more for your money. You can't do more if your money was no object, but the accessibility check, which has been the case. That curve has been going for ages, hasn't it? I mean, that's. I was talking to somebody who came in to shoot the other day, and he used to do lots of remixes. I used to do lots of remixes, and we were wondering, it all tailed off, and it was partly because of the democratization of music, which meant that anybody could have a crack. So remixers were doing things just because, they'd been given a chance, and they would do it for nothing because it was kind of it wasn't necessarily a way of living. So, things change from supply and demand point of view, and that's down to accessibility of the tools. I mean, if everybody could afford a really high-resolution 3D printer that would make large objects, then we wouldn't require a whole series of manufacturing sort of things and shops that sold things that effectively we could make in our 3D printers. But those aren't available yet. I'm sure they will be, or maybe on the corner.
They will be.
Yeah,
just a question of time. Just a matter of time.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting, because I mean, you presumably in your studio you've had to have all sorts of things custom built, custom made. Have you had any stuff 3D printed to little widgets and cases and whatnots to fits, or have you?
No, not yet. There's some kind of plasticky bits on my desk at the end of each channel, at the two ends of the channel, which kind of holds it together. And now I'm missing one. And it really annoys me. Where is it? out of the 120, because there's 2 for each, there's 1 missing, and it really drives me nuts. So maybe I'll get that one kind of done.
Well, because the other part, this is something that I had. There's a place online where you can kind of locate people who are and have 3D printers in your area, and you can either upload the I can't remember what the DXF files, I think they're called, or if they're close by, some of them also have 3D scanners, so you can take your thing in and it will be scanned to a reasonable rate. The really high resolution ones are very hard to come by, but you can get reasonably good, and then you can have somebody tweak the design, because it will turn it into some kind of 3D model, and then they can fiddle around with it and get the tolerances a bit better, and then print from that. And I had the same thing. It was a blind part. And this lad made me a few from just around, and it turned out it was just at the end of my garden. He was in the house opposite me. But that sort of stuff, I mean, that's all getting very William Gibson, isn't it? And that kind of, where you have these little technical, it's like the phone shop, isn't it? Where you go, the non-branded mobile phone shop, where you can get your phone fixed and the glass fixed, and they'll have all sorts. You can imagine these little sort of funky workshops where there's strange people in rooms full of boxes and wires and stuff that can make you anything you need, but it's the knowledge that we don't have because it's all manufactured. I think that
I think that soon enough we'll have one in our home. We'll have it will be like a washing machine or something like that. It will be probably a liquid of some sort, like mercury or something like that. Not that, but something. That's how I imagine it to be, which is all kind of numbered or whatever. Kind of each molecule has its own address, so you can just arrange them together and say save, and you get like a whatever coffee mug or something like that. And
interesting.
And then you'll just pay for the usage of that. That will be it'll be like a monthly bill.
So you just buy a big block, a cubic meter of stuff that you can then turn into whatever.
Yeah, you'll have a supply. It will maybe come in running pipes like gas or something like that to your home. That will be the kind of building blocks of the thing, and then you'll just pay someone for the usage of the software, of the designs of the for them to give the designers royalties and all that, and then you create whatever you need. Maybe including even food.
That's an interesting idea. I wonder if, but again, that's going to be difficult for electronic components because you can't 3D print. Well, you might be able to 3D print integrated circuits and chips, but things like resistors and transistors and those sort of things, they're not so easy to do. I mean, I'm sure someone will come up with a way, but the miniaturization of it is so fiddly.
Yeah, but 150 years ago, people would say it's not so easy to fly, and so things change, and very rapidly, and the rate of change is increasing as well. So,
Yeah, well,
I think it's coming a lot sooner than we think. Not only that, but other stuff as well. Yeah.
Well, I suppose as resources become scarcer, you can imagine if you have a personal plastic allowance, that you can turn into whatever you want, and then you can recycle it yourself. So it's like one day it could be, your camping chairs, and the next, when you don't need them anymore, you can put it in a machine and it'll turn into your, I don't know, whatever it is, your laptop stand or whatever. I suppose that's a kind of interesting concept. So everybody gets a finite amount of stuff to play with, and then the innovation comes in how efficiently you can build those and design them and reconstitute them.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a sci-fi novel right there.
Yeah, it could be your bed that you sleep on, and then you kind of wake up, you get out of bed, you press the button, it kind of gets back into the yeah, exactly, into your breakfast, and then you ride on it to work.
Wow. Okay, that's even I'm having trouble to stretch that, but the concept, I'm liking the concept of that. Anyway, I think I don't really have much more. Excuse me, much more to add. I don't know if there's anything that we did have the Soma thing, but I think maybe we'll save that for another time.
Well, I think we've covered DX7, so that was the past. An Electron update is the presence, and we talked about the future. So I think we've pretty
done
much
all
covered
three.
it.
Excellent. That's good work. So what happens to you now? Are you off? Have you back to work, or are you finishing for the day and then back in and mixing again?
No, I have one mix to print, and then I'm off. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us. It's a pleasure as ever, and
My
for,
pleasure.
for putting yourself up for the one-on-one. I know we normally have more guests, but I think you've done a sterling job. So thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And I'm sure, like me, you'll probably be watching the occasional Glastonbury act over the weekend. Anything that I'm trying to think who's playing that I would like to see. I can't even remember who's playing. I don't know. It passes me by, I suppose. But
I just turn it on and just watch it, whatever is on, for however much I can,
yeah, that makes sense.
enjoy it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Okay, folks. Well, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget, if you want to enter the competition to win iZotope's Neutron 3, we're looking for the hashtag Mix Assistant and the hashtag Neutron 3, the number 3, one word, to @Sonicstate and @iZotope Inc. That's on Twitter, so it's a Twitter competition. The hashtag Mix Assistant and the hashtag Neutron 3 to @Sonicstate and @iZotope Inc. And you're going to win an advanced copy if you enter that competition. Well, I'm not saying you're definitely going to win, but you stand a chance of winning. Anyway, that's it for this week. I want to say thank you very much to my guest, Yoad Nevo. I'm still going to come and talk to you about that studio grid and the Waves technology. It sounds very interesting to me. So when next time we're up in London. But for now, we will see you next time. Thank you very much.